Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. The name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful. I'd like to welcome you, dear viewers, to another in the series, Pearls of the Prophet. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And in this segment, we'll be looking at the divinely inspired advice with regards to our health and our spare time. عن ابن عباس قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم نعمتان مغبون فيهما كثير من الناس الصحة والفراغ رواه البخاري. Ibn Abbas related that Allah's Messenger said, there are two blessings about which most people are deceived: health and spare time. Collected by Al-Bukhari. Dear viewers, all of us at some point in our lives enjoy these two blessings from God: good health and spare time. More of one than the other, or the opposite, or both. What happens to us in life is that we are easily deceived into thinking that our good health will last forever. Our spare time will always be there. And in that state of delusion, we waste the opportunities for doing good. This is the essence of this advice here of the Prophet Muhammad, may God's peace and blessings be upon him. He is advising us not to let any opportunity that we have to do good go by. Try to utilize good health, our spare time, into doing things which are beneficial for us in both this life and the next. People forget the blessing of good health until they're sick. It's what happens. It's not until we get sick, very, very sick, we're not able to do any more things that we wanted to do, that we reflect back at the times when we had good health and we say, oh, I wish I had done this, or I wish I had done that, or I wish I could have done this and I had done that. This is the state that people fall into all around us. The Prophet, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, gives us this advice to help us to avoid that situation of regret. Great regret. Of course, we all regret. Every human being will regret. However, we don't want that state of regret to be one which is so overwhelming, so great, because we have missed the vast majorities of opportunities in our lives. Therefore, if we have good health now, we have to thank God for that good health and use our health, the things which require our health and our strength to do good. We try to utilize them now. Do as much as we can. Fasting, prayer, these are things which have to do with our good health, for example. Prayer, compulsory prayer, is there for us as a guide. 5 times a day is the guide, not the end of it all. Just to do 5 times a day prayers and that's it. No. This is to guide us, to help us to do further prayer. When Prophet Muhammad, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, stood at night in prayer so long that there were cracks in his feet, even some bleeding took place. And his wives would ask him, why are you staying up so much in prayer all night long and so on and so, when Allah has forgiven whatever errors you have made in the past and whatever is in the future? Prophet Muhammad ﷺ we turn to them and say, shouldn't I be a grateful servant of God? Gratitude. To turn back to God in gratitude. Prayer is there. We should try to utilize as much of our time in prayer as we can. Getting up in the night, etc., to make additional prayers. Voluntary prayers, recommended prayers. We should try to do as much as we can, because there will come a time for many of us, for most of us, when our health will not allow us to do these prayers. We're just too weak. Physically, we cannot stand it. So the opportunities are gone. If we have not done them when we were healthy, we will not have the opportunities later. Similarly, for example, making Hajj or Umrah, the pilgrimage. This requires a certain amount of strength, physical strength and health. Many people go there, they're not able to complete their rites because they're physically not capable, because people have traditionally decided to leave Hajj and Umrah till the latter parts of their lives. This is wrong. As soon as we have the capability, we have the means, economic, in our hands, we should go and make Hajj. To delay it is actually sinful, because it is an obligation on us once we have the economic means. So we should not let these opportunities slip by us to a time when we don't have the health to do it. Similarly, fasting. Fasting requires, again, certain health. A lot of people in the world are not able to fast because they don't have the health anymore. We don't want to find ourselves in that situation where the opportunities to do voluntary fasts, fasting every Monday and Thursday. This is the way of the Prophet. May God's peace and blessing be upon him. He advised us to do this. Fast every Monday and Thursday. Throughout the year. Fasting is not just Ramadan. Ramadan is training to help us to get into a mode of fasting. Fasting is a way of life. But it requires good health. The rewards for it are immense. As the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ quoted Allah as saying that everything that a person does of good deeds are for themselves, except for fasting. And I, God saying, I will reward it. This fasting has a special status in the sight of God. Shouldn't we strive to get that benefit? When we're healthy, we can do it. When we're not, we cannot. Similarly, spare time. Many of us have holidays, spare time. And this time is not used to benefit ourselves for the next life. It is only a time of enjoyment, relaxation, and, entertainment. We use our spare time in entertaining ourselves. Entertaining ourselves in ways which will not benefit us in the next life. Maybe some of our entertainment involves sin, corruption. In other words, that spare time is being used in sin, in building up the evil against ourselves. This is a grave error. Spare time is something which is valuable, which we should not allow to go to waste. We should utilize that time to do things which are pleasing to God. It's not to say that the time must all be used in prayer, but that time, though we may seek to do things in that time which are entertaining to ourselves, it should still be things which are pleasing to God, that there's good in it, not just merely a situation of pure entertainment, but one in which we are entertaining ourselves in a way which is pleasing to God, and if it is, it then becomes something which will be rewarding. God will reward us for it. So we should not consider our spare time as something Just we can do it as we please. Allah said, فَإِذَا فَرَغْتَ فَانْصَبْ. If you find yourself into a period of spare time, then go on to other forms of worship. The Muslim strives to make all aspects of his or her life worship. So we try to utilize our spare time well. We have spare time now. We don't want to find ourselves, as Allah describes some people in the Day of Judgment, when they die and they go out of this world into the state of the grave, they will be begging God to let them come back to this world, that they will do some good, just give them another chance. There's, if they had more time, they would do good. No, God says no. There's no coming back. The opportunity is here and now. If we let that opportunity go, if we use our spare time in disobedience of God, all we will find for it in the end is regret. So, dear viewers, Prophet Muhammad, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, has provided us with this piece of advice in order to protect us from a state of total regret when we die, when we stand before God on the Day of Judgment. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Pearls of the Prophet. And in this segment, dear viewers, we'll be looking at advice from the Prophet Muhammad, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, with regards to paradise and hell. عن أبي هريرة أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال: حجبت النار بالشهوات وحجبت الجنة بالمكاره. متفق عليه. Abu Huraira quoted the Messenger of Allah as saying, "The hellfire is veiled by desires, and paradise is veiled by dislikes," collected by Al-Bukhari and Muslim. Paradise and hell. This represents an unseen world to us, a world which the prophets came and informed us about. That is part of their duty. They brought what God requires of us in this life, which is to worship Him alone. And they informed us of what is to come beyond this life as a reward or as punishment for not choosing the path of worshiping God or choosing that path. Paradise and hell. We know paradise is the state, based on the descriptions of the prophets, that we all want. No one says, except the truly foolish, I want hell. None of us. Every one of us wants paradise. But to gain paradise, we have to do the deeds of the people of paradise. And we have to avoid the deeds of the people of hell. Prophet Muhammad, may God's peace and blessings be upon him, he gave us advice here with regards to hell and paradise. He said that what veils, what shields or makes or covers hell is our desires. That is, what is behind our desires is hell. Well, a person may question, didn't God put these desires in us? So why should there be hell because of these desires, as a result or behind these desires? Yes, God put the desires in us, but He instructed us as to how to utilize those desires. The desires are there for our development, for our spiritual growth. They are part of what makes up the human being, his desires. However, if these desires are not controlled, if the desires becomes instead our God, then the end result is hell. Allah says in the Quran, have you not seen the one who has taken as his Lord, as his God, his object of worship, his desires? Such an individual is cursed. Cursed in this life and the next. This is a warning to us that desires must be kept within bounds. It is the desires which are totally free, with no guidelines, no controls. This is what leads to hell. Freedom, what people have defined in these times as freedom, means in fact slavery to one's desires. Whatever one desires, one does. Free love, free sex, free whatever. Anarchy. This letting go of one's, or letting oneself loose to one's desires. Whatever the desires take us, wherever they take us, we go. Left, right, up, down, wherever. This is not freedom. This is slavery. We become a slave to our desires. And when that happens, we are headed on a path to hell. That's the bottom line. That is the reality of this life. God created the desires, but He told us how they should be utilized. If they're utilized according to the instructions of God, according to the religion of God, according to Islam, then those desires are beneficial. They are beneficial not only to ourselves as individuals, but also to the society as a whole. However, when we reject divine guidance and opt for the so-called freedoms, then we fall into a situation of misery, because desires know no ends. The more you desire, the more you desire. As the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ told us, if one of us were given a valley of gold, we would desire another one. There's no end. No end. As they say, the grass is always greener on the other side. This is the Western way of expressing it. That's the reality. No end to desires. So once we let ourselves go to desires, they become our lords, our gods, then we will never be satisfied. We will never find happiness in fulfilling, simply trying to fulfill all of our desires. In fact, true happiness will only come with contentment. This is the real happiness. Contentment which comes from knowing who God is, knowing what our purpose is here, and living in accordance with the guidance which God has provided for us. Then we will attain true happiness. Desires will be in their proper place, and our lives will be one of contentment. On the other hand, paradise is veiled by things which we dislike, things which our desires oppose. Many, not all, but many. Meaning, for example, in the morning, when the adhan goes, when the clock rings, the time for prayer in the morning, 5 o'clock, our desires tell us to sleep. Sleep is sweet, it is good. Don't get up. This is our desires. But paradise involves getting up, doing what we don't like to do at this time. but doing it knowing that this is pleasing to God and this is what we need. We need it, so we do it. And in doing it more often, more regularly, then we get greater spiritual strength. And we do this in life anyway. When a doctor gives us medicine, and we know the medicine tastes terrible, we will take it because we believe it's going to make us well. We do it. What we don't like, we will do because we know there's benefit for it. Well, what about paradise? There are things to do which we don't like, which are not pleasing to us in the sense of pleasing to our desires. They involve struggle and striving. But this is life. This is the course of this life, is one of struggle. Allah created us, as He said, in a state of struggle. Right and wrong, choosing the right over the wrong, avoiding the evil, choosing the good. This is the struggle of this life. And in knowing that paradise doesn't come easy, it is not cheap, but requires striving on our parts, we then drive ourselves to overcome our desires to disobey God and to do the right thing. We strive to do those things which God has ordained for us, which He has prescribed for us, knowing that they are good for us, knowing that they are for our betterment. God did not prescribe prayer and fasting and charity and the various good deeds that one may do in this life. He did not prescribe these for us to make a life difficult for us. He prescribed them for us because they are for our benefit. We need to do them. They help us to grow. They build us and they build others. So when we look at this life, we have to look realistically, knowing that behind the free reign of our desires is hell, and behind the control of our desires and doing things which may not be desirable in many cases is paradise. If we want paradise, then we have to choose the path of self-control. Choose the path of submission to the commandments of God, the way of the prophets. May God's peace and blessings be on all of them. With that, dear viewers, I bid you farewell and hope to see you in coming segments. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
دجى من وفرته الله 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 Muhammad, peace be upon his soul. The greatest of prophets, Islam was his own.